Hi, and welcome to our training. This is Elizabeth and Emily, and today we are going to talk about how to properly set up a table. So, before you get started, we really recommend that you have everything that you need to prepare. So, this is going to include a variety of different materials that are going to be needed for setting your table. So we'll quickly go over them, and then in the next couple of slides we'll go into more detail on the different types of ware that you'll see. So you'll want to make sure you'll have a tablecloth, all of your utensils, so this includes forks, knives, and spoons, your glassware, your plates, your napkin. This is optional, but you could include table decoration like a candle or a flower. This would sort of help to enhance the eating experience. We do recommend that if you do use a candle, you do use an unscented one so that it doesn't interfere with that eating experience. So next we're going to talk about the presentation of the table. And so we're going to go over a few tips so that you are prepared for success. And so one thing you really want to make sure is that you have a nice and clean table. You want to make sure that there's no dirt or debris on there. This would also include the tablecloth. Ensure that your tablecloth has been washed and there's no big stains or anything like that. You want to make sure the appearance it looks well. So what you'll do is you'll place the tablecloth on your table. Sometimes you won't have a tablecloth, sometimes it'll just be a placemat. So you'll want to put either one on the base. Directly on top of that, your dinner plate would go, and the dinner plate would be directly in front of that guest. So next to the dinner plate, you're gonna have your cloth napkin. So just like the tablecloth, you do want to make sure this is nice and clean. It is recommended to have that folded in half. So another thing that you'll want to make sure is you're going to want to make sure that the glasses are on the top right. Often they're not placed there, so just make sure that your glassware is going to be on the top right. And so don't worry now. On the next slide, we'll show you a representation of what that would look like. And that will be an opportunity for you to ask some more questions as well. So here you go. So this is what the table setting would ideally look like. I will mention that some of these things are optional, but we're going to go ahead and start from the left and move our way towards the right. So on the left hand side, you'll see your bread, plate, and butter knife. And so on this representation, you see the butter knife sort of horizontal. You may also see it diagonal, which is appropriate as well. On the bottom towards that, you'll see the cloth napkin. And so just remember, it's clean, folded in half, and that's going to be on the outskirts of the table. Moving inward, you will have your forks. So typically you start eating from the outward in. So typically you do have your salad before your dinner. So you'll have that salad fork outside of your dinner fork. In the middle, you will have your dinner plate. The dinner plate is typically placed above something that we call a charger. So that's like a base, and it just makes the plate look a little bit, or I would say maybe the table, it makes it look a little bit more appealing. Right above that, you'll have your dessert, sort of silverware. And so these, you will notice, they're actually a little bit smaller in comparison to the other silverware. These are optional, but one thing that you'll notice is they're sort of opposing each other. So the dessert spoon would be placed on the right hand side once you have completed that dessert spoon, and the same for the fork. That fork is typically used for something that's sort of like a cake. So once you've completed, or once you've finished eating it, you would put it on the left-hand side, sort of with all the other forks. Moving forward, so we'll have above that a plate card. And so that's going to be optional too. You'll usually see that at maybe an elegant dinner, a wedding, something more special occasion. So typically that could have a name, or maybe it could just say reserved seating. So I'm going to move more to the right now. So you'll see a variety of different glassware. You'll have your water glass. You'll also have wine glasses. Typically, once you know what wine you're drinking, if you are drinking any, they will remove the other one. Or if you're not having wine, they'll probably remove both when you are that person that's eating. But for setting the table, you want to make sure you set it with all of these different materials. So right below that, you'll have your knives and then your spoon. So as we mentioned, you start with what you're first eating. So the spoon would be reserved for something like a soup. So you typically eat that before your dinner. So it would be more on the outskirts. Moving inward, you'll have your dinner knife, and then you'll have sort of a bigger, more serrated knife for your meat if you are having a steak. So this is what the ideal table setting would look like. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, great. No questions? I think we're good. Great. So now we're going to put everything that you learned into practice. So what I would like to do now is give everyone an opportunity to practice putting the table on your own. And so what we will be looking at to test your knowledge and your performance is going to be on the following things. So what we're going to be looking at is making sure you properly set up the table. So this means you put the plates, utensils, glassware, napkins, everything in the correct placement. We also want to make sure you had a nice and clean table that was neatly placed. If you're looking to have a little bit of a bonus, we're going to be looking for things like a centerpiece. This could include something like the candle or the flower. You could also add some different colors. And lastly, we will look for your chairs, and it's very important that they're pushed in because this is going to help so that it looks more presentable. So yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Emily and myself. Thanks.